Hi, Canadian County. Guys, I hear that you are going to be vetting some of your candidates and looking at some different candidates. So that's pretty awesome. Stephanie asked me to make a quick video. I'm sorry I can't be with you today. I will be with you at the end of the month. The reason I'm not there is we have some perversion happening. I'm sure some of you have heard about it. We've got a drag show that is being advertised as family friendly right next to an event for kids, but the drag show's family friendly, so it'll be okay. The churches don't want to stand up for innocence. They said that they're against it, but they will not be protesting it. So I'm going to go do that. And that's what I'm doing today instead of being with you. Stephanie was very understanding, and I appreciate you all for being understanding. I can't wait to be with you at the end of the month. But I do want to just give you a couple of pointers and just a little bit of my thoughts if you'll just let me entertain you for a minute. Some of our candidates, if they've already been legislators, they have scorecards. When we're looking at the scorecards, you need to just remember that, OKPHR, OK2A, these are great organizations. There's plenty of organizations that give scorecards and they're incredible, but they scorecard just certain bills. They don't score every single bill. And so you need to be mindful of that when you're looking at it. Of course, Don Spencer with OK2A is going to be looking at the bills that had to do with gun rights. And so that's going to be an important aspect, but you need to remember he's probably not grading abortion or whatever your hot button is. So the gun rights, the gun rights protect the rest of them. So I think that's a noble cause, and I love OK2A and everything they do. Remember when you are campaigning for people or you're deciding who to support to not let friendships get in the way. There's a thing called relational deception. John Bennett talks a lot about it. And just because you're friends with someone doesn't mean that they're the right one for the job. And even if they are, you or the people have to hold our legislators accountable. And so the friendship has to come second because our country and what's happening has to be first. So even if your friend runs for office, it needs to be clear that, man, we're buddies. I appreciate you. I'm always going to support you, but I'm going to hold your feet to the fire whenever you are in office because that's my role. And so we can't, it's kind of like if any of you have ever had businesses. I know I've had to be careful. I've always been friends with my subordinates, whether it was in a company or even in a volunteer. I've always been volunteer capacity, whatever it is. I've always been friends with my subordinates, but at the same time, you can't, especially in a company or a situation where we're dealing with them with the government. Um, y- there's a hierarchy there, and they answer to the people, and you can't let them forget that. And try not to let friendships get in the way of holding them accountable. When you're vetting information about people, one of the first places you should go, and I learned this from Miriam Hanine. She's the one that did the expose on the bees a few years ago, and she did a lot of exposing with Charles Schwab and a few of the other ones. But she said go to their social media accounts and look at LinkedIn, see who they're friends with on LinkedIn and dig into that. See what they posted on Facebook, see what they posted on Twitter. Now, I think this is something that is more regularly being practiced now. But pay attention to what's going on, right? Because that just matters. See who they are. There's a guy running against Bergstrom here that was a Democrat until 2019, and all of his ideologies are pretty socialist and democratic in nature. But you have to listen to what he says and look beyond how he says it. The guy's like a used car salesman. And so everything he says sounds good until you read between the lines and listen to it. So really listen to what they're saying, not how they're saying it. Of course, you can go to public records and see any kind of court or anything that they've been in. As I found out with my race recently, I had some accusing me of having what was the exact wording I heard? A rap sheet a mile long. and I've been divorced twice, and I had to declare bankruptcy one time. I don't regret either of those decisions, any of those. Those were it, they had to happen. It's the way life happened. I can give you the rundown if you're interested. And I have a speeding ticket. I think I only have one ticket. I think the rest of the time I've been pulled over is warnings, but I still speed. So, we'll see how that goes. But it's interesting. You can really find anything. So I've never had a criminal charge. So, I don't know where rap sheet comes in. That's just deceptive, but you can find out anything. Court records are all public. And so I encourage you to look those up. Um, and then and look up in different names, right? So if you're not sure, like in Oklahoma, it's OSCNET. But if they're like from Hawaii or California, just look up Public Records Hawaii and it'll tell you what their website is and you can just look it up. Look at surnames, right? Um, Also look up the organizations that they are associated with. Look up those websites and the companies. But let's keep integrity. One thing I was talking to one of the candidates about was that, I don't think it's the patriots that really dig to find dirt. We're looking just to see if you're freedom. We're not trying to nail anybody to a cross. That's establishment tactics. That's Democrat tactics. We're not looking to hurt people. We're just wanting to make sure you're going to stand up for freedom. And I would suggest that those that you have access to, you have a conversation with them and you ask them hard questions. But then after you talk to them, you need to go beyond the hard questions and look up the news reports on their names. Have their actions backed up what they said? That really matters. And then talk to other people that know them to really vet them to see, okay, so this is what they said. And remember, when you're talking to people, I often talk to you about that gut feeling, right? That gut feeling is always right because that's the Holy Spirit, that's your conscience. It's never been wrong. And so don't doubt that when you're talking to someone. If your gut is telling you something's off, it's because it is. And if your gut is telling you it's good, it's because it is. You can trust that. But, so pay attention to that. That's discernment. We really don't give discernment its proper place, and it's very important. So pay attention to that. But also talk to people who've had experiences with them outside of the news sources, because to thoroughly vet someone, it's got to be beyond hearing just what they say. It's looking behind, especially if you're dealing with a narcissist, which politics tend to attract. They know what to say and they're very good liars. And so you need to look beyond what people say all the time, right? Some of the questions you should be asking or thinking about, and this was a checklist I wrote for a constitutional sheriff. Do they believe the federal government should notify local authorities before arresting a citizen? Do they believe the federal government can violate constitutional rights? Do they believe in 2A? What issues are important to you? Do they believe that the LGBTQ community should be pushed on kindergartners? How do they feel about books in schools? Do they feel like, I wouldn't go and say, do you think pornographic books need to be in schools? Because everybody knows the correct answer for that. I would word it, watch how you word it to try to see what they really say. Say, do you think that the books in schools should be up to the parents' discretion, or do you think we should leave that up to the schools? Do you support Ryan Walters? That right there is going to tell you a lot. Um, do you believe that liberty are rights that are granted by God? If anyone wants my list of constitutional sheriff, which was approved by Sheriff Mack, I'll be happy to get that to you if you will just email me at C Lynch, that's CLINCH, at freedombrigades.com. And I'll give you that list. I'll also give you my check sheet on how to vet information, which you can use to vet candidates, and also how there is a training video I did with Tanya Paris. If you will go to Brigades for Freedom, it's on Rumble. It's BRIGADES, the number 4, FREEDOM. And on that, I do not put my podcasts on there. I just leave those for training videos. And I have one on there with Tanya Paris, and she flipped the Sarasota Medical Board in Sarasota, Florida. And she talks about how to find good candidates and how to vet them. And so there'll be some information on there that you may find useful. I think that training video I kept to 20 minutes if my memory serves me correctly. But if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. You guys are patriots. You know, we've had enough. That's why we're involved. And you guys are taking back Canadian County. It's really awesome. I'm excited to work with you, and I can't wait to see you in a few weeks. Thanks for giving me a few minutes.